Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, a show where we talk about all of our geeky interests. On the show, we talk about movies, TV shows, comic books, and video games. My name's Tommy. I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's the one and only DL. How are you, mate?
I'm good, dude. I'm good.
Texting over. Oh, it's a new character?
I had a no.
So close.
Dude, I had a zinger that I was finishing to one of my mates. So before it left and evaporated from my brain, I had to get it out into the ether.
I want to know. Tell me on air. He's not going to hear it.
It's really not.
It's not that funny.
It's not this.
Zing.
Yeah, it's funny for the context of tech sales. It's really not funny for the context of, comics, movies, and video games.
Podcast.
For nerdy stuff.
Nerdy stuff. I mean, we are nerds, so you got to find nerdy stuff interesting.
But yeah, man, I'm good. Life's good. Bit freaking crazy, but I still managed to find some
hectic,
cool things to do this week. So, and yeah.
Very nice.
How about you? Busy?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Working too hard. I don't like it. I feel like I'd rather just do this all the time. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great?
Totally.
Let's get real famous.
I need to find a way to retire because I don't like this working thing. It's fucking.
Let's get real famous real fast and then just do this for us.
Can you imagine 20 more years of this working? Fuck that.
20 more years? Are you fucking kidding? For us, it's going to be 50 minimum.
Oh man, no way.
Dude, with 30.
I'll go.
You've just said
I'll eat beans. I don't know. Have you seen that It's Always Sunny episode? He's just really, really poor or something. They lose the bar and he's just eating beans all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Charlie, we need the beans.
I had a mate over here who unfortunately lost his job with COVID, but he turned it into a positive because all he did was eat toast and tuna.
Just shredded.
The entire time. He was a brick shithouse, as we would say in the UK. He was huge, and I was just like,
That's what I need.
Yeah, that's what I need.
Unemployment and toast with some fish.
I literally can't afford other foods.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Well, what have you been up to, mate? Talk to me.
I've been from the perspective of the podcast. I've been catching up on a certain show you've been trying to get me to watch.
Have. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. You've been binging it.
I binged hard. And it was pretty easy to binge hard on because it was good. But last night, I actually haven't watched a ton of stuff except for... I actually did finish The Queen's Gambit. I had 30 minutes left on that. And had a good ending. But then I watched...
I'm sure you've told me that about 3 times now.
No, I haven't. I just finished it. So we were almost done. But I watched this movie last night called Bone Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk.
Have you heard of it?
Is that an old movie?
2015.
Okay, not Kurt Russell. I'm thinking of. Go on. Kurt Russell. Okay.
Western. I don't even want to say more than that, but it's a merging of genres.
Okay.
Would you watch it?
Dude, I know nothing about it.
Okay, I'll
watch the trailer after this. And
It's Western horror, I'd almost say.
Okay.
But I don't want to say anything more.
Aliens? Monsters?
No, nothing too crazy, but it's fucking good.
It's all within the realms of reality.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you don't seem too convinced by
that. Yes. George Clooney nod. Yes.
That's enough.
Dude, it's
George
really,
Clooney nod.
I had nightmares. I was last night. It
really?
was
I think
intense.
that was the rain, mate. I feel like that was what it was.
But the rain woke me up from nightmares. So it was the rain was the sound of the, night. Anyway.
Damn.
It was
I'll have to check it out.
Good movie.
Was it Tomahawk?
Bone Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk. I'll check it out. I'll check out the trailer. I'll have a little look.
It's good.
I'm not a big horror guy. I think I've talked about horror way too many times. I feel like I'm very disparaging of it. I'm not. I like a horror movie if it's a psychological thriller. So if you just give me jump scares and shit,
this is a Western with horror elements.
Okay.
Not even horror elements. It's just a Western with good suspense.
Good suspense is perfect.
Yeah,
I love that.
In a slow build. I love a slow build. I'm a big fan of slow, Tarantino dialogue-esque stuff.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
It's like that.
My ideal horror genre. Nothing's a genre these days. Everything's everything. But it is either Silence of the Lambs, which is phenomenal, or something although the ending's not perfect, Get Out, which for me was just unbelievable.
Great movie. The other one I watched, which is not it's hard to compare anything to Get Out, but it's psychological in nature there. Babadook, we also watched that this week.
Oh, damn, I've heard about that. Is it good?
Yeah, it is. I think it's Australian made as well.
Oh, really?
But it's good. I'd already seen it, but I watched it again. It's creepy.
Well, speaking of Australian made movies, I actually went with a girlfriend this week to watch a movie called The Dry. It's very different to anything we would normally talk about. So essentially it was over here in Australia, they occasionally do it in the UK sometimes. They do these like outdoor cinemas. And there's one in Sydney which is essentially looking over the harbour, and you get a view of like the Opera House and the city on one side, and it's really beautiful.
I've actually seen The Dry. That's the one with
It's got Eric Bana in it.
Yeah, it's an
who's
Aussie
one of my
one.
least favourite actors.
I actually like Eric Bana.
But in that movie, I genuinely thought he was good. The suspense was great in that movie. It really, like, for a movie I had zero expectations for, I didn't actually even watch the trailer. I went in completely blind. I had no idea what I was watching.
What do you know?
I genuinely really enjoyed
Bana?
it. I feel like he ruined the Hulk a little bit.
I forgot he was even in that.
Yeah.
But that was old, man. Yeah, you can't really hold that against him.
Wasn't good,
It's
was
not
it?
Eric Bana's fault, is it?
Oh, but wasn't it?
Eric Bana in, what was that?
He just
movie
wasn't
where
a good
he was like the
Bruce.
Jewish assassin. Fucking awesome.
Oh, I've
movie.
never seen that.
It's about the like Olympics where there was like a terrorist attack and they hired like an assassin to go find the people that did it. An Israeli assassin. I think it's called Munich or in Munich.
Oh, Munich. Yeah.
Really,
was he in that?
Really, he's the lead. Yeah, he's killing it.
I rate because, well, I mean, this movie essentially is not dissimilar. It's like a crime thriller, right? So it's completely different to anything we normally talk about, but it felt very, like, it was very outback Australia. It was very, like, middle of nowhere Australia, which was great for me, great for us, because obviously, you know, fucking live here. But it's weird because we don't live in those areas. And when you drive through them, you're like, it'd be weird to live out here. And
you recognize it.
It really, like, got the feeling of that really well, that sort of, like, isolation almost. And, like, this little town and how everything was sort of kept in there. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
There's a really famous kind of like psychological thriller in Australia. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's old, about a very similar thing in the outback.
I can't remember.
I'll
There's
find
a lot,
it.
actually. There's a few. Find it and let me know.
Yeah.
But a couple of other things I watched this week. I have continued my slow progression of forcing the girlfriend to watch the MCU movies. Yeah. Actually, you watched the beginning of this one with me. We watched we watched Iron Man 2.
Got to see Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, I skipped.
Tear up the F1.
I skipped.
Almost as bad as his face.
There's a dude in my gym who looks exactly like Mickey Rourke, all the way down to the steroids and the weird hands and the weird long hair. He is just Mickey Rourke, but Australian. It's so odd. And every time I see him, it just makes me. It's like, you know, when you just find yourself staring at someone.
Yeah.
And I can't help it. But he is so roided up. It's so. Anyway, getting way off track here. Another thing I watched, I really, really delved into my youth and geekness of my youth, was I found on Netflix they have a Dragon Ball property called Dragon Ball Broly. I don't know if, did you ever watch Dragon Ball growing up?
I did. I'm not like a super fan, but when it was on, I watched it.
I wouldn't say I'm a super fan.
You talking about Dragon Ball Z?
So Dragon Ball is the sort of overarching thing, and they go. There's GT, there's Z, there's Dragon Ball, and this one's Super, and it's like a sort of side story based on it around a Saiyan who was another of the Saiyans who kind of missed out on getting the whole planet destroyed, and it sort of tells that story of the planet getting destroyed as well. It's actually kind of fun, but I was watching it and I was like, this is just like one of the 20-minute episodes extended to an hour and a half. It was quite painful by the end of it. I was like, oh God. Like don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. But the same way like the Entourage movie is an episode of Entourage, but spanned out over like an entire, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It was fine. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't think I'd watch any more of it because they've just released a new thing of it, and it's a bit like, I quite liked the point when he became like Super Saiyan, and I was like, that's cool. And then it was like Super Saiyan 2, and then 3,
repetitive,
and then 4. It's like, if you've just got all these levels, like there's too much plot armor. You know what I mean?
No,
like he's always
totally.
going to be.
I just remember like him and Vegeta fighting and stuff, and being like,
those were the days.
This is cool.
Those were the days. This is me geeking out hard here, by the way.
Seriously, you're going deep
Seriously
into
geeking out hard.
Eric Bana.
Bana.
Troy from Hector.
He was.
I will not let a rock steal my glory. It's a great movie. It's a shitty movie, but it's a great movie.
I don't even know if I've seen it.
It's like so cheap. You've never seen Troy? It's too long.
I've seen the old Troy.
But it's like
the
peak
claymation.
early 2000s, right? It's got every guy. It's got Brad Pitt at his peak.
I was going to ask
Eric Bana
Brad
at his
Pitt.
peak. Orlando Bloom at his peak.
Ooh. I don't know if I've seen it. I saw Clash of the Titans. I saw that one because that's got
different.
old mate Liam Neeson in it.
Yeah, different. Troy's
I mean, it's all the same mythology, right?
Yeah, but Troy's more grounded in like reality.
Oh,
It's no like there's mythos, but then none of them have
Ooh,
magic
gritty
powers.
Reboot.
Anyway,
Let's do a section. What's your favorite gritty reboot this week?
It's famous.
Oh, gritty reboot. Well, actually, fully enough, talking about gritty reboots, did you see this week the trailer for Mortal Kombat?
Yes, I did. It was fucking
gritty
good.
reboot.
It was very good.
It is actually.
I don't think you can say
incredible.
anything about that movie in that cute voice, though.
Dude,
it's gonna be fucking ruthless.
Well, goddamn. What we call it 18 in the UK, 18 plus. What do you call it in the States?
I mean, that would be rated R.
Yeah, that's it. Rated R. Yeah, rated R. So it's the R label trailer, red label trailer.
Yeah,
and it was brutal. You see, so I'm actually thinking of doing a mini breakdown for it because, like, I've seen a couple already, and fuck, it's cool. Like,
yeah, I've only seen it once. I could watch it again. To be fair, it's really good.
There's so many cool scenes. Like, you see Jax's arms getting exploded, how he ends up with his big metal ones.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the story's going to follow roughly like the sort of story of the sort of video games ish, where you find out about Scorpion's history and how he was like murdered by Sub-Zero, and there's this obvious point of view character who's an MMA fighter. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
But is he
Doesn't
representing
matter.
a new person, or is he representing like a character
The MMA
from the
fighter.
games? Yeah,
Well, that's what I was about to say. There's a lot of speculation over whether he's going to be one of Sub-Zero's descendants. It could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm just excited, man. Like, a good Mortal Kombat movie. Like, it's got
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Do you
It
think
looks
it's got to be a
good.
little campy as well?
I mean, like of course,
It's got to be a little campy.
They're gonna be like, finish him. They're gonna give that.
That'd be great though.
They're gonna have that. Like,
Fatality.
they're gonna have.
There's
somebody
Goro in there. Do you see the Goro part?
with
Big
the fucking
forearm guy. Yeah. Oh my god.
spreading his wings.
Damn, that guy looks sick.
Yeah, spreading his wings.
That's an awesome one. Well, coming a little bit off that trail. And did you hear this week that Florence Pugh, one of the new Black Widows, shall we say, unsure exactly of her role in the Black Widow movie, likely to be taking over the mantle, has been spotted in Atlanta, where they're filming the Hawkeye series.
They're also filming something there because what's his name was in Atlanta too.
Apparently
Tom Holland,
filming the Spider-Man movie, yeah,
which has got a name,
which is very interesting. Well, has it?
Well, Tom Holland, you know.
Well, so we had three today. So Tom Holland, Zendaya, and the guy who plays Ned Leeds, whose name I forgot off the top of my head, all released their own version. So Tom Holland released Phone Home.
I didn't realize that.
Ned's did Home Wrecker, and Zendaya did Home Slice. So they're all having a bit of fun.
Are they, or is it
They're
the
all having a bit of
multiverse?
Imagine if they released a different film in different cinema, like different regions. How cool would that be?
Fucking big time.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, that'd be big time.
Well, that's a really interesting bit of news. I really like that. I'm excited to see that coming out. But there's a couple of other bits of Did You hear that finally the rights to The Punisher and Jessica Jones have gone back to Marvel? What do you think about that?
I wonder if that means they're just going to redo it, or they can still use the stuff that was already done?
I mean, who knows?
Well, I mean,
they bought Fox. I don't
like. Can they now use that character and the actor? That'd be good.
Who knows? John Bernthal's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's an awesome actor.
There could be a clause in the contract that says they can't use that exact version, but who knows? That'd be great, man. I think the Jessica Jones actress was great as well.
I didn't watch any of that, but I saw a bit of The Punisher.
I watched all The Punisher. That was phenomenal. I watched a bit of the Jessica Jones one too. That was cool. Did you hear the rumors this week that Jennifer Lawrence has been cast in an unknown part in the Fantastic Four reboot?
Really?
Did you hear about that? So we don't know.
I don't know how I feel about that.
The rumors went straight to Sue Storm, obviously, as you would, because that's the main female character. But like, I think she could be anything in that movie.
But she could. I don't know how I feel about it though. She's already done a superhero movie.
I'm going to be one of those guys. Like, I don't really rate her in those X-Men movies. I thought she was crap.
No, I mean
she's great in other things.
She's whatever. She wasn't anything special.
What was one in space with Chris Pratt? What was that called?
I never saw that, but
it
got really bad reviews.
Sorry, I never saw it. I saw it on a plane.
It did not get good reviews.
Okay.
But she was really good in the Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay.
Really good movie.
Okay.
With Bradley Cooper.
Did you ever watch a TV show called Luther?
I saw the first season.
With Idris Elba?
And I'm like, there's not this many depraved people in London, though.
Dude, it's so good, though.
It is good. But I mean, like, if you can just... Like in America, I'm like, yeah, there's probably this many depraved people. But in London, it's like, this is like a weekly occurrence right now. Like, I don't think it's this bad.
Oh, we got some pretty depraved people over there, to tell us. Well, they've actually... Idris Elba has confirmed that they're apparently going to start shooting a movie this year.
Oh, that's cool.
How many seasons was there? For a while.
2 or 3?
I think there was 5.
Oh, really? It got up to 5.
But the last 2 only had like 2 episodes.
I saw like the first season or something.
The first season, well, honestly, I really rated it all. There is a big part in season 3 where a main character gets murdered, and it's a bit like after that you feel like his grasp is like loosening a little bit. Well, he's like more of a music producer these days, right?
Is he?
He does the odd movie.
Well, he did that
does a
Netflix
few
show
songs.
where he's like a DJ.
Did he? I don't know.
But also a babysitter.
I need to check that out.
That's pretty good.
That's cool.
I forget what it's called. Charlie something.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you? Oh man, you'll actually really like this. Apparently, Marvel Studios are relocating to Sydney for the next 5 years to use the Fox
Makes
Studios.
sense.
That's exactly what I said. The first thing I said, I was like, that makes so much sense. Like COVID levels are low. You can get actors over there.
And everyone
pretty
wants to
easy.
get up into Byron Bay and fucking have fun.
With Zac Efron probably, who's maybe still there. Like fuck, I love it, dude. If you gave me the tiniest opportunity to partner with Zac Efron, you would not see me for days. I'd be gone. I'd probably lose my job.
Oh, funny story. Actually, I was at a party once where he was at. Kid you
Really?
not, yeah, in Hollywood.
That's awesome.
In the Hollywood Hills, and he was just like shrooming out
Oh, really?
on the couch.
He was.
Yeah, and
Did you meet?
Like,
I guess you couldn't meet.
No, I just was there with like a friend who like at the time was like really into the Hollywood scene. I am not. I'm an East LA guy.
Don't care.
Anyway, she was just like, "Hey, like Zac Efron's gonna be here. I just got a text like."
Be cool.
Don't
Be
approach
cool.
him like, and I was like, "What the fuck am I gonna go say to Zac Efron?"
Yeah. What do you?
He's just, you're really good looking, dude.
Yeah. Good
Like,
for you.
good-
Your abs,
good on
your
ya.
abs are like steel.
Yeah, like fucking. What's your fitness routine?
How many years ago was this?
Oh, dude, it would have been probably 2 years before I moved to Australia.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
it's
seven or
years?
8.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Looks like he was having a good time.
Yeah. I mean, on shrooms.
Yeah. Well,
I
it can
hope
go.
so.
It can go many ways.
They can
Anyway.
do, to be fair. Shrooms is, that's an interesting
Is
one
that,
for a
is that
celebrity.
an okay topic for a
Interesting one for a
podcast, to be
celebrity.
fair?
Yes. Interesting one for a celebrity, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, I don't know. Like, celebrities like to party, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but I would assume it would be more like hectic, like high drugs, rather than like let's space the shit out here. Spaceman.
Like,
it up.
Seth Rogen's definitely.
True. This is
Good,
also
man.
true.
Anyway.
Well, speaking of addictions and,
Yeah.
those types of things,
Yeah, okay.
there was
Where are you
an
going
interview this
with
week
this?
with one of my favorite actors who I absolutely love, and I'm so happy to talk about him again. So apparently Daniel Radcliffe admits that he's massively embarrassed by his own acting in the Harry Potter series. Apparently he can't even watch them. He's too
I
embarrassed.
mean, can I just say,
Yeah.
good for him for acknowledging the truth.
Well, apparently he had like serious alcohol problems, like addiction problems, and he says
Oh,
like,
God, I didn't know that.
yeah, he says
Actually, I did know that. But I didn't know it was during Harry Potter.
apparently so. Apparently there was scenes when he can look at scenes and be like, I was like drunk or hungover in that scene. Like, fuck me. Like, here you go. A lot of drinking. This is a quote, apparently. This is a quote from The Independent. A lot of drinking happens towards the end of Potter.
I was going to say, like, in Philosopher's Stone, when they're in the
Yeah.
library.
And for a little bit after it finished, it was a panic. A little bit of not knowing what to do next, not being comfortable enough in who I was to remain sober. Which, makes sense.
Dude, the same thing kind of happened with Kit Harington towards the end of Game of
Did
Thrones.
he?
He had like he had a thing where there was a couple like really like public videos of him being fucking wildly drunk.
Really?
And then he
Dang
went
it.
and did he went to like a rehabilitation center, but
Didn't do
it
rehab.
wasn't like full rehab. It was like, I just need to get away and like figure.
Okay.
That was how they framed it. But
Interesting.
I'm sure, it's crazy. A big part of your life, like, ends, and I think there was a quote, something like, I know this is like supposed to be the happiest time of my life, and for some reason I'm not happy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like, so it's
yeah.
like, yeah, fuck, man, it's wild. Depression affects
It is
everybody.
interesting how that, yeah. There you go. That's really interesting. Depression does affect everyone. That's a really somber note to finish on. But
anyway.
I mean, like, let's be perfectly honest. Like, I make fun of Daniel Radcliffe and his acting and stuff. That's nothing to do with alcoholism. It's just the fact that I think he was a complete
Well, he wasn't
piece of
he
wood in
wasn't
that-
very good. Yeah,
in that film.
in all of them.
We talked about wooden actors last time. So the actor who played Scott Summers, he was also a piece of wood in that movie. So maybe we can get them together and build a life raft for them all. We can put them together.
Save
all these
Leo.
wooden actors. Yeah. Get save Tom Hanks.
God,
Wilson.
that fucking Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie bugs me so much, and I love him as an actor.
Wait, which
in
movie?
Titanic, I was saying Save
God.
Leo with the raft.
Dreadful movie.
Dude, he must
Too
say
long.
Rose
Rose.
like a million times in the movie.
It's too long, man.
It's
Like,
so many times. It's like 2 lines. Rose.
anyway, why are we talking about Titanic? This
I don't
is
know,
getting
bro.
way off topic here. Let's
get
do you
on to
wanna
the
do you want
fact.
to do a little bit of a Wonder Watch?
We can, but like,
Wonder Watch.
and that's what some of the mates said. I got some feedback on the show this week.
Well, let's say
We
that
can say that to the end.
because we
So-
can talk about this because we ended up having a really good chat about the one from friend of the show Matt last week.
I'm not. I didn't like that episode.
It
was a bad episode. I'm gonna straight up say it.
I think bad's harsh. I think it had been so. What I personally
moved slower than that damn van they were in.
My personal opinion was that it had been consistently getting better the whole way, and I think it had to have a dip before the actual final 2 episodes.
Didn't have to.
Well, I mean, save a bit of budget for. I reckon there's obviously going to be a big like laser fight, like pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, I mean, but didn't have to.
I mean, they had to.
They didn't have to
save
have a
some budget.
They could have just had a good episode. They could have just had a good episode where they weren't in a van for half the time, where freaking Wanda wasn't like totally overdoing the impression of.
She was a bit over the top.
Modern Family.
Yeah,
like it was so good that she wasn't Wanda at times, and it was like, well, what is the fucking point of this?
She's an actress. She's a good actress. Of course she was.
You're just
what do you want?
You're just mimicking another show.
What do you want?
I wanted like she lost track of her own character in that.
I quite like that as well, though, because I feel like that's showing her also like breaking down. We also got the reveal of who is apparently the main villain, Agnes.
Yeah,
now, did you get that?
That was also the point of like,
did you get that?
So like they could have done a couple of different things this episode that like I would have liked it a lot more if they basically sped it up a bit. Didn't have fucking Vision in the car the entire time. It was kind of funny.
I kind of like the Vision parts when he was looking at the camera.
It should have been a bit longer where he actually had something fun to do in the episode because that was there was no payoff.
And also, they sat in the car the whole time. Man can fly. And I know at the end of it, he flew out of it and flew away, but you can do this the whole time.
Yeah, no, that was part of the fun of it. It's just the fact that nothing eventuated from him having that all happen. So there was literally no payoff in that episode for a lot of boring shit.
We got the flip side of the story, which was obviously Monica Rambeau's becoming a superhero.
Yeah. I don't know why I don't really care about it.
You're not into that?
Yeah.
Because I'm interested. Because I mean, it's another superhero, right? The original cast of superheroes is deplenished.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Deplenished? Yeah.
I think it's depleted. Is that what you were going for?
Same, but different.
Yeah.
The original cast of superheroes
you were
is
saying
depleted.
replenished would be like going more, and you're saying deplenished, but I don't think it's a word.
Why are we talking about this?
Anyway.
The original cast of superheroes is depleted. We need new superheroes. We need to get new origin stories.
Totally
we need to build a new team.
I don't really care about her. Is she from Captain Marvel? Was she in that?
She was, but she was a kid in Captain Marvel. She was a significantly younger version. So she was
the
daughter
through that movie.
Did you? She was a daughter of
Captain Marvel's mate.
Captain Marvel's mate, whose name is completely. I'm
really
not doing well today.
Dude,
that
movie was pretty forgettable, minus the guys that are setting up Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I did enjoy
that
the
part
scrolls.
was cool. Yeah,
they were cool. Jude Law's character, it was very much a case of an overpowered character, right? Like in terms of Carol Danvers, it's the Superman conundrum. What do you do with her?
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
You have to Professor X her, like we talked about at the beginning of every movie. Well, I thought that I actually really liked the turn of Monica Rambeau into what's probably going to be Photon, maybe.
No, I agree. I'm fine with that. What I honestly didn't like about the episode was the fact that like the big reveal of Agnes was done so like cornily, and like
you hate that part of the show.
It doesn't really give you like. First of all, it's already this weird thing. Well, it seems to be. Where it's getting into like a fantasy side of Marvel more than we've ever seen, which does exist in the comics. It's magical, not like supernatural magical.
Yeah,
which does exist in the comics.
Yep.
But we haven't really seen that as
Doctor
much.
Strange.
That's like metaphysical though, not really like. I wouldn't. It's not like full.
We haven't seen much in this.
It's not full magic.
Well, we haven't. This isn't really though. All we've seen is changing shit in the environment.
So we don't know yet. With
minds.
The caveat that we don't know yet, the fact that there's all this witch stuff and this magic book, and
what do you think about?
And they handled it cornily. Like it all didn't add up well to me.
What do you think about the lair?
What's the thing? I mean,
it was very horror origins. The way like suspense horror. The way she got it down there. I was feeling very like Hansel and Gretel while I was watching.
I was hoping that would be like a metaphor or like a visualization of like the wounded and dark part of her like mind that she can't,
as in Wanda's,
that she can't fucking handle that like holds all the keys to Vision dying and all these things that she's kind of like bottled up. That was like the representation of it in the physical world that she's created.
You thought she'd be in a Star Wars Luke Skywalker facing Luke Skywalker
moment. That's exactly, dude, spot on. Exactly. Like, you laugh, but I think that would have been accurate.
We still could see that. That could be the next episode.
I hoped that was what they were doing. It's like, this is like her outward facing thing, and then we're going into the depths of her mind, and it changes the decor of the place because,
interesting.
You know,
well, the theory that I sort of enjoyed and have seen a couple of places is that this place, wherever it is, this Westview, New Jersey, right? That is
shitty place.
That is like a nexus point for like all the connected universes. So that is like a connection point.
Well, it's become one because of what's happened.
No.
Or in general?
The one I like is that is one anyway. And the whole point for Agnes was to get her to this place. So because in the comics, the Nexus beings are like beings of great power who can open portals can open dimensions, and Wanda's one of them. And I love the idea that maybe it's not going to be quite the same in this, but like her power can unlock.
Yeah, no,
these gateways.
I just hope that Agnes doesn't be like, because she's been so campy and because the reveal was like, it was Agnes the whole time.
So many people like that.
Like, I'm just like, it lost some of its gravity. So I hope that like she actually gets some teeth.
I see you're in a moody boy today. I'm getting it now. I'm understanding.
No, I just want her to get
moody. You're not
I
quite.
want her to get some teeth. That's all. Not some fucking cheese.
Well, I think in the next, I'd love it if the next. So if we're saying that Agnes is the big bad of this, let's say she is. Let's say there isn't another big bad.
There's 2 episodes. So like,
I'd like there to be a second reveal of something, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. But
well, if that is the case, then I'd like the next episode to be what we just said. Like, a Wanda has to be herself, unless she then goes on to become the big bad.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or were you a bit disappointed by the reveal of the space engineer, or lack of it? Because there really wasn't one. No, there wasn't.
How dumb was that thing with the fucking car?
So
like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there was so much wasted time in this episode.
Well, the point of that was so that she'd bust through and get her powers. Like, that was the setup for that.
She could have fucking done it. They could have done something else. Just drive this car straight at it. Didn't work. Big build up.
Well, they built the science, didn't they? And then she expanded the hex.
Yeah. No, I just think that was a wasted. They're probably costing money too. It was just a waste of time, really.
I didn't enjoy that part as much. I think when you had Darcy Wu and Monica Rambeau together, those three kind of like sizzled together. They had like really great chemistry. As soon as you split them up, it was like I wasn't quite as into it.
Yeah,
you know,
agreed. And you were expecting like a new character that they didn't give as well, which made it worse.
And what's it? Yeah, exactly. And well, the thing is, they didn't say that the person she met, the female officer, was the scientist she talked about.
No, but they surely knew that people were expecting that.
Well, yeah. That's a bit of a bait and switch, isn't it? And another thing I noticed this week as well is, right, so Vision can just take, he's done it before, Vision can take people out of the mind, whatever it is, right? Why doesn't he just do it to everyone? Free them. Free these people, Vision. Free them!
I mean, it's a good point, but I think it's because he's trying to figure shit out without alerting Wanda.
That he's trying to figure shit out?
And if he does that, like, she'll obviously get across it, and he doesn't know how she'll react.
I get that, but if you want quick answers, that's your way. She's not going to say, she's like...
I think it's like they're covering that by being like, Vision's fucking like a baby, but not a baby because he has no memory. So like he's not quite as all-knowing as he was before because he's had a hard reset, let's say.
True. Yeah. Someone made the point to me, actually, and I can't, actually, it was one of our favorite listeners, and I can't remember which one, I apologize, made the point that, you know, the bit when they were sat in the van and everyone was crossing the road and Vision was thinking it was Wanda who was trying to slow him down.
Yeah.
That must have been Agnes.
Yeah.
That can't have been Wanda. Yeah. Because the closer he gets, like,
and she was losing her powers.
She was losing her focus, and that's the point. She wanted to lose her focus. Yeah. So some bits of that episode, I think it was like laced, like the fine print of that episode was really interesting. But like you say, it was so heavily built around this sort of Modern Family office vibe. It just didn't work as well.
It also didn't build anything to a finish. Like every other episode has had like little things that it built to kind of a crescendo and got something out of it. Like this one was kind of all over the place.
It was a little bit.
Which you're right. It is a setup episode.
But then that was kind of the state of those Office episodes. If you equate it to The Office, those were just batshit crazy. Especially the English Office.
The Office? Oh, like the actual sitcom. Sorry.
Yeah. So like those didn't really build to anything, and they were just sort of like.
Yeah, but like
there were obviously themes and etc. But in the same way, like it was batshit
But this
crazy.
is a sitcom, but it's still the MC. Like your fan base. They aren't expecting the Office.
They do know their fan base, and that's exactly why they played that game with you.
I don't appreciate it.
And next week they're going to absolutely bring you back down to earth. Are you excited for next week?
I am excited. I'll still say that I'm excited. And
next week, it's like 2 days away.
True.
And by the time this is out, it'll be 2 days in the past.
True. Very true.
There's some serious multiverse of madness shit going on over here. Well, I think that kind of covers it for Wonder Watch. If any of you guys have any interesting theories about Wonder Watch, anything, anything we've missed, anything we didn't talk about that you'd like us to talk about, let us know at pod_assemble on Twitter. That'd be great. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yes.
Do you want to hit us with the main topic thing?
I was going to ask you, and you beat me fucking to it. God damn it, dude.
You weren't quick enough.
The main topic theme. The main topic theme.
I always do it in the background anyway.
It's always the same thing. Like that. And I actually the other day was thinking, how else can I sing main topic theme in a different cadence?
How can you?
You can't. It's
Hit
always
me up.
the main topic theme.
I mean that's from the WandaVision experience.
I just don't think there's any other way to sing it. Like, guys, tell me if there is. I don't think
I'd love that. Yeah, if someone wanted to do it as a main topic theme, that'd be phenomenal. Maybe your brother, maybe my brother.
God, enough with it. He's such a flake. Yeah, so the main topic.
My brother's too busy with a kid. He's
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so what is the main topic this week? Do you want to talk us through it?
The Boys. Season 1 and 2. I did a binge.
Last.
I did a binge. And let me tell you, it was worth the wait, Tommy. It was worth the wait. It's a good show. It's a fucking really good show.
I'm glad you think that, because I genuinely was always of the opinion that you would really like this show.
Saying it's a good show tonight. It's like a phenomenal show. It's very, very, very original.
It's one of my most. It's probably one of my. It's definitely the first season, one of my top favorite first seasons. I've said that a lot on this podcast, but I think it's just because we talk about things we like. Like, it is way up there.
I think it's like as far as like doing everything you want out of a show, right?
Yeah.
Will also be like, if it wasn't about superheroes, I'd still be interested, kind of thing. Like, because there's great casting, there's great acting, there's great characters, there's great like themes and statements. Like,
agreed on all that.
I love The Boys because it's a satirical story, like grounded in gray.
Yeah.
Right. And
let's give it a background first. Do you want to give it a background?
Sure.
I'll smash a bit of background in there, and then we can sort of get into the show. What I thought I'd do is just tell you a little bit about the origins of this, because obviously, as you well know, this is based on graphic novels or comics by Garth Ennis. And Garth Ennis is a phenomenal writer.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's really well known for a run on The Punisher. So The Punisher Max, it was called. So Max was essentially Marvel's adult-facing comic books. He does this brutal, disgusting version of The Punisher, which is fucking phenomenal. But he also he worked on DC's Vertigo, which is the same sort of like the adult content side of things, which sort of gave him more freedom. And he created, he was partially created Sandman, which is actually, we briefly brushed up on it a couple of weeks ago. They're making, I think it's a Netflix show of it, but it's very fucking cool. And it's really it's massively renowned. But he has like a background in Western, in horror. He's done all kinds of shit. He is just so fucking cool, Garth Ennis. Some of his work is incredible. I've actually just bought the first issue of The Boys. There's 72 of them. It's gonna be a long old hard road.
72
waiting for me.
72 issues. So they've got some source material to go through.
Yeah. Well, so we can talk about this in a little bit, but it's very different from the comics and some of the things that
I've heard that, but that writer, who's the main showrunner?
So I was about to talk about that. So for the show, it's Eric Kripke, right?
He seems really smart.
Supernatural.
Yeah, I've seen a couple interviews.
He did that for 15 seasons.
I guess, yeah.
That went on forever.
Supernatural sounds familiar. I totally know what that is.
Oh man,
is it a CW show or something?
I think it is. Well, it actually moved around. It got canned on one, but like it has a massive like fan base, so it came back. So can you tell me what the IMDb score is for this? What do you reckon the Boys is?
It'd be like for IMDb, and this is a really really good rating on IMDb. I'd say it's mid 8.5 ish.
Ooh, so close. You're getting better at these. 8.7.
That's more impressive.
Yeah, it's
like honestly, there's not a lot of shows that are that high.
It's phenomenal. And the premise of The Boys, right? Do you want to premise The Boys?
I mean, I'll let you do it. You're more succinct than me.
Well, it's essentially a world where superheroes exist, right? And it flips the usual superhero tale of one of optimism to one where they've been corrupted by essentially celebrity status. And, more often than not, are likely to be involved in, less than super behavior.
I think it's just like grounded in it's a superhero show grounded in reality of like, actually, if we did have superheroes, why are we assuming that they'd be good people?
100%. And also it dives into the shadier side of business as well. There's a company that essentially owns them called Vought, and it delves into their shady side and how they essentially run their lives, their hearing schedules, their social media, and how that affects them as heroes in quotes.
And people.
And people.
Yeah.
And people. And there's so much more than that, but that's the sort of overview of the show. I think what we might as well do then is just talk a little bit about it generally. Yeah. Sort of talk about the actors and the characters, and then maybe jump a little bit into just just a vague overview of the first and second season. Then we can just go into talking about, because I can't wait to talk to you about this. I've been waiting for so long.
It's a great show. As I was saying, it's the reason why it's like a step above like your standard show, like even like WandaVision, these other great shows that we like on the MCU. This is a very different show. It's
absolutely
dense. It's got like a lot of nuance. It's grounded in gray, nuanced characters that they really focus on and build out.
Oh, absolutely.
It also manages to make like really impressive statements.
Yep.
Alongside like poignant themes that basically like force the viewer to ask like serious questions, but also doesn't tell them what the answers are. Like it's really open ended.
So okay, well let's talk about the characters then, because for me there's for me in the show there are essentially two parallel running point of view characters. In inverted commas, I'm waggling my fingers around like any of you can fucking see me like an idiot. Yeah. So for me, the two point of view-ish characters who you sort of follow through, one of which is Huey.
Yeah.
So Huey is obviously the classic human being. He's a bit of a doofus.
Classic human being. I don't know if he's classic.
In a world of superheroes.
He's the classic like goofy, nerdy guy.
He absolutely is.
He's like the guy
he's a bit of a doofus.
Would probably listen to this podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
I would hope.
Loves
Should
Billy
we be
Joel.
so lucky about Huey?
Loves it. Well, I like
Huey as a fan.
Anyway, so he, in my opinion, is sort of mirrored and opposited. That's not a word. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it really is. You have this mirror POV character who, in my opinion, is Starlight. So you are introduced to her at the very beginning, and you sort of follow her story into the Seven and how it's very different from how she imagined. How do you see it? Do you see it?
I haven't seen season 1 as recently as season 2.
Okay.
So I thought you were going to say Homelander, but I think season 2 centered a lot more around Homelander than it did Starlight. So maybe that's where the dichotomy is there. But you're right.
She kind of starts out,
remembering the season 1, it did start with those two characters and following their origin stories, really.
Yeah, and in the same way, they both start out as these sort of dewy-eyed, massive optimists in the world, and then all of that changes as soon as something happens to them. There's a big event that happens to both of them at the very beginning of their careers, and it completely hardens them. And it's their sort of devolution into, how far do they go into these lives? How far does Huey go into being a superhero hunter? And how far does Starlight go into being a social media obsessed for porn? So it's really interesting. For me, they're the two characters that I resonated most with at the very beginning.
Yeah. I mean, and not only like Vought Pawn, but just like how will she get sucked into the lifestyle, or will she maintain her core, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's loads of, the interesting is all the way through, there's loads of little trials for them both. And it's how they deal with that.
It's funny that you're focusing on those two, because they're like actually my two least favorite characters in the show, I think.
Because Starlight really grows on me. So they flipped over. So at the beginning, I liked Huey, and because I could really get behind his motivations throughout the whole show.
Yeah.
So what happens with Huey is he eventually joins up with Billy Butcher, who, as we all know, is played by Carl Urban, who is great in this.
He epitomizes the role.
He is great in this. His English accent, I know, is fucking terrible.
But isn't he actually English?
No.
Is he American?
I think he's Australian.
Aussie? I don't know.
Check it out.
Yeah. But he epitomizes the role really well.
His accent's dire. We have Billy Butcher, who's essentially using this big traumatic thing that's happened to Huey to manipulate him essentially into becoming his pawn a little bit. And then eventually he joins the group, which we're going to call the boys from now on, which is Huey, it's Butcher, it's Mother's Milk, and it's Frenchie, who are essentially fighters against superheroes.
Yeah.
which is what they are. And they all have their own motivations. And the best thing about it is they're all really fleshed out characters. And I think that really works. But on the other hand, you have Starlight who joins the Seven.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to me about the Seven?
So the Seven is almost like, think of it as the not the Avengers, but similar.
Well, it's like the Justice League.
It's the Justice League.
It's literally the Justice League.
It's a group. I guess it would be Justice League. Yeah. Because of
you've got
the Deep,
Homelander,
Aquaman.
Superman.
Yeah.
The Deep.
No, that's fair.
You've got Wonder Woman. You've got Batman.
They're all like quasi satirical character, like versions of each character.
Exactly.
So you're right. It's Justice League, and but in this world, it's kind of just this like, what is the ultimate like A-list superhero? They're the people in the Seven.
Yes.
They're like
Yes.
it's like the top of the food chain as far as like being an actor or being a celebrity. You're in the Seven. You are the top of the food chain for superheroes. And there's
Which is
all
a
sorts of
really
people that like
interesting
almost got in, and all sorts of people that like used to be in. So there's these like B-list, C-list superheroes that have like kind of fallen by the wayside. So that's kind of the world you're in.
So talk to me about the Seven then. Like, so obviously when we meet them, they're the Six, because obviously Starlight is becoming one of the Seven.
Yes.
So we have Homelander, who is essentially a psychopathic.
Homelander
Superman.
is, I think, the life and blood of this show. He is so interesting as a character.
100% agrees.
Yeah.
He's just so well. But I think as well that other characters, how they portray their sort of fear of him, really drives that forward. So Queen Maeve,
and the fact that he's fucking scary.
He is fucking
he's a
scary.
fucking psychopath.
Queen Maeve's like the second strongest superhero, and she is shit scared of him.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, without getting into some of the satire and themes, she embodies a big one, but we can do that in a bit. But he, like, I think
Anthony Starr nails that role as Homelander.
Yeah, he kills it. He's like,
it's really weird. You see him, he takes the blonde wig off, he takes the shoulder pads off, and he just looks so, it's stupid, but it looks completely different. He's got
I actually
black
have
hair.
no idea what he looks like.
He's just got black hair, and I'm
gonna look him up.
Yeah, he's not as hectically large as as Homelander is.
Similar hairstyle, just black.
I think that's just his hair.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Maybe they just bleached it. Yeah.
So I mean, well, we sort of touched on this before, but so we essentially start. What I'm going to do is quickly just talk through the real broad overview of the first and second season, and then we can jump into our sort of favorite bits and talk about more of this.
Should we finish the characters up with the Seven?
Yeah, please.
So the Deep, who is played by the guy from XOXO Gossip Girl.
Is he?
That's his main role. Yeah,
he's
he's the pretty boy, cocky guy in Gossip Girl.
Okay. We have Queen Maeve.
I'm going to
find these actors.
We've got A-Train,
who is. Say these actors' names while we're talking. So you have obviously Anthony Starr, who I mentioned before. Queen Maeve is Dominique McElligott. That's a weird way of spelling. McElligott. I've not seen her before, but sorry, go on. You were saying?
We have A-Train, who is played by
fucking great.
I don't know, have it in front of me, to be fair.
Jesse T. Usher. And he was in
is that Usher's son?
Shaft movie with he was Shaft's son. He was in Independence Day Resurgence. I used to really rate him. He's been in more stuff than you think he's been in. He's been in a lot of things.
Starlight, who's played by Erin Moriarty.
Yeah, I actually follow her on Instagram. She's a good person to follow. She's very down the line with her politics. So we then also have Translucent, who in the first series is phenomenal. He's a real creep. And it's kind of that. So Translucent's. We should have said their superpowers. Homelander's obviously like Superman, Queen Maeve, Wonder Woman, those sort of powers. Translucent is this. Essentially, he can turn his skin into an alloy, which makes him go invisible.
And he's also like impenetrable, apparently,
and also gets diamond hard skin, which is really, really interesting. And he's a super perv, which there's a scene when Stormfront, when Starlight is crying in the bathroom, and then he's just there, just because to be completely invisible, he has to be naked, and he's just naked in the bathroom. It's fucking hilarious. And then we have obviously the Deep, who you mentioned. What do you think about the Deep? I love that satire.
So the Deep is and he's the Aquaman guy. He can talk to fish.
And the last,
he's just a goofy character. He's hilarious.
Well, the last one's my favorite. My last one is Black Noir. Now, Black Noir is a kind of he initially starts off as like a Batman parody almost, but then you find out he actually does have some pretty dark ass superpowers. He's a ninja. He's got this regenerative. He can heal real good.
Regeneration. He can heal well.
He heal good. He's fucking very cool. And I'll touch on it a little bit in a minute because I don't want to ruin too many things for you. But in the comics, his character is way different. Like his character it's like mind shattering how different his character is in the comics. But I really like those, and they work really well together as characters.
So far, yeah. And then you got the boys where there's Frenchie, there's Billy Butcher, and Huey, and that's kind of and Mother's Milk. And each of these guys has really a different role to play and different backstories for why they hate Soups, but we don't, and they're called Soups, superheroes.
Well, I think the interesting thing watching the two different groups is you have the 7 who put on this great front of being like this team, this unit, but like when you see them in their own time, they're all massively dysfunctional and completely hate each other. Yeah. But then you see the boys and they just hate each other.
But they're like also functional.
Yeah, but then they function. Which is such a weird flip on it.
Yeah, and I think that it's also interesting, like the irony. It's like how like a big part of the theme, I think here. Do you want to get into that, or
why don't we talk
go
about the themes then? Talk about the tone and the themes.
I think one of the themes is like, for sure, how far is too far?
Yeah, 100%.
Right, like and finding like your moral compass and like what is moral, what is immoral.
Yeah,
and it's ironic.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
That's there too. Yep. What's ironic is like you've got these. Technically, you have 2 vigilante groups, right? Like these superheroes are vigilante, like vigilante justice, right? They go and just go save, do it, and don't really care, who they hurt in the process. And that's part of like
they're pretty good at murdering.
The immoral part of the superheroes in this world.
Yep.
At times they do distasteful things, but then you look at the boys and like we root for them, we like them. That's kind of the tone the show takes.
Do we root for them? Though?
But at the same time, they're also a vigilante group who at times does distasteful things to get to their outcome. So it's like,
and you're supposed
it's really
to dislike
ambiguous.
them.
It's really like, who do you root for? Why do you root for them? There's no real clear answers here, and that's a big part of why I like the show.
We talked about our love for the Game of Thrones series, predominantly based on the fact that it explores those gray areas so well, and this does a lot of that too.
This is the first show that's given me like truly gray characters, where I'm ultimately surprised at how I find like even Homelander. At times I'm sympathetic for him.
So the challenge with Homelander is, and we should have probably prefaced this up top, is that when you watch him, his public persona is this like virtuous, whiter than white, Catholic,
perfect American,
wears the American flag on his back. And then you get the flip side of it when the cameras are off, and he is an absolute
psychopath. Like
he's
sociopath.
Literally a psychopath.
Yeah.
And it works so well. And Anthony Starr, I mentioned before, just plays that sort of like almost dual motivated character unbelievably well. And you find out more about his motivations as the season goes on.
Yeah.
There is one theme. Sorry, you go.
I was going to say, like, talk themes. How do you think, what do you think the main theme that weaves through the whole thing is?
So I was trying to read up on this, and I didn't want to read too much into it, but then I was sort of like just thinking the absolute power corrupts absolutely, like I mentioned before, and that doesn't quite cover it for me because I think there are too many gray areas to just flat out say that. And I read this one quote which I really loved, and I should have written down who wrote it, so I apologize. But it's the perversion and sale of the American dream. And to me, as soon as I read that, I was like, well, that's exactly what this show is.
Yeah, I think it's like a satire on American. Yeah, exactly. It's like you think this is you think that, pursuit of happiness is the American dream. This is the reality that you guys actually live in.
100%.
And let me take off all the like nice little covers and show you actually what
peek behind the curtain,
what America is.
Love that.
And it's really crazy because it's so appropriate to Trumpian politics. Without getting too into it, but you kind of have to.
Let's not get too political. We're not a political show.
You kind of have to.
We're
with
definitely
the show,
a sports
though.
show. We're not a political show.
There's no way to talk about The Boys without getting political because it's a direct satire on the American people and today's like Instagram worship culture.
True.
These people willingly accept their oppressors in the Boys.
Well, willingly. Do they have a choice? There's a lot that. Look,
they willingly worship them.
Let's talk about that in a moment.
At times.
Can I ask you just before we jump into anything further? So, what do you think? What's your overlaying tone of this show? Like, what's the tone you always feel when you're watching it?
Tone.
It's a tough one because, like, when I was thinking about this personally,
right?
And it varies a lot. And the one thing that I kept coming back to over and over again was just like nihilism, like
Yeah.
the meaninglessness of everything when you have
I think
these superheroes who could murder you without even thinking.
I think it is nihilistic, but it's also like it's just like jaded and like
In terms of the characters,
yeah, like it just in terms of like world outlook. You're right.
Yeah.
It's jaded, nihilistic world outlook.
And all the politics you were talking about before. And there's certainly bits in it where the superheroes are trying to interfere or be involved in politics, and it's like that's not your role. But how can you say no to a being who could smash you like a grape?
It's a critique
really
on like the
interesting.
modern like power system in America,
Yeah, it
for
really
sure.
is.
And like think about like just even this metaphor, right? Like Homelander representing
Yeah.
America and all that is good and the American dream, all that's good about America, sucking
Fuck
on
yeah.
the teat of the VP of the most powerful company
It's-
in the world, like with a full like edible fixation, like that has to be a statement against like American big business.
Let's
and
not
it's,
get too far into because that's a little
and-
bit spoilery, but like that's 100%.
no, but I mean, it has to be. It's like, hey, like you. Anyway.
That's 100% it, and that
Yeah.
and it's the power struggle, and that's what's really interesting about the show. So in terms of the seasons, I'm gonna rattle this off because I'm dying to talk about just what happens in the show. The first season essentially plots the course of Huey attempting to gain revenge on A-Train. I think that's
It's a good start.
succinct way of saying it, and we also follow Starlight through her journey joining the Seven and how she's affected by that and how her understanding of superheroism changes. And then we also have Billy Butcher. I love that character.
It's
He's
such
so
a
good.
ridiculous name.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's
He also has what we find about the boys is they all have essentially a revenge motive, but Billy's is the one that drives their cause forward, and it all crescendos in a really awesome way. We'll talk about it in a minute. And it's quite hard to talk about the second season without sort of ruining the first one, but I'm going to try. The plot continues from essentially literally where it leaves off in the first. We are introduced to Stormfront, who is a new social media savvy soup, and she is very good at manipulating Homelander and the media.
Manipulating in
and
general, yeah.
Yes, while I feel Huey and Starlight aren't necessarily the mainish characters of this season as much, we more follow Billy Butcher's story and sort of how that unfolds going all the way through. It's
a bigger. I would say the
hard.
two people that we focus on in season 2 are Billy Butcher and Homelander.
Yes, and I think that's where so I think your POV characters in the first place are those two,
Yeah.
while they're still dewy and naive and dewy-eyed.
Yeah.
And then it flips. It almost goes from the least powerful to the most powerful characters. Over to see, which is interesting stuff. Look, we're gonna go full spoilers now, but just before we do, I'm going to ask you if Aquaman 2018 was a 10-part Amazon
I
Prime.
neck myself.
Which do you think is better or worse than 2018?
This doesn't even. This is a dumb question. This is a dumb. I refuse to play.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's better, man.
Do you
better.
think? Okay, here's a better question. Would you rather see
The worst episode of this is better than.
Would you rather see a 2.5-hour movie of the Deep being the Deep,
Yes.
or Aquaman 2018?
The Deep being the Deep. That's a better question, and I would still prefer the Deep being the Deep. The jokes you get old after a while, but like so does what's his name's wet black tight jeans. So
Wet thought.
yeah,
Look, let's jump straight into spoilers and spoiler warning from here on out. I've been really excited to talk to you about this show since day dot.
So how do you want to do it? Do you want to just go through like your
let's just
favorite
go
parts?
through the series and talk about our favorite parts throughout. Like, I think the way it starts in that revenge, the reason for Huey's desire for revenge is that A-Train smashes through his girlfriend,
Like bloody gore within
And
the first 30 seconds of the show.
explodes her.
Yeah.
She just goes everywhere, and like it doesn't hold back. There's no apologies about it.
It's very gory.
It's unbelievable. Like, for you as an entrance to the show, how do you feel about that?
I was just like, okay, this is going to be one of those shows where I'm just going to get a lot of blood and guts
Yeah,
in the beginning. But no, I think it's a very bold introduction into the world. Like it sets the tone for like what kind of world you're living in.
Okay. It's interesting, actually, talking. I just thought about this as we were talking then. Obviously, Eric Kripke is the showrunner for this. interesting into him because he seems to have a fascination with that. So in Supernatural, we mentioned his longest running TV series. I actually know this because my brother got me into it when I was younger. I quickly fell off after about fucking 6 seasons. There's that many of them.
Wow.
The middle gets a bit weird.
I was going to say, it can't be that good for that long.
It apparently ends really well. Anyway, so there's 2 brothers in that, right? And they're going around hunting demons and monsters and la la la.
Okay.
The plot device that gets the main character who's not sure about it to agree to go and do this monster hunting is that a monster kills his girlfriend.
So it's revenge, yeah.
It's essentially another revenge tale, which is really interesting. And I don't know if that's another case of fridging someone, as we were talking about last week, which we don't really need in our media anymore.
I mean, I don't think they make it all about the fact that it was his girlfriend. It's more about like, this is someone he loved. And he's like a pretty lonely guy. He doesn't really, him and his dad don't really have this like
they're not
stellar relationship. So it's like the only person he's ever had.
Simon Pegg, great casting.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. So in the comics, the main character who is Huey is based on Simon Pegg. Essentially, he just aged out of the role.
Yeah,
and it's really weird looking at the graphic novels now and being like, that's not what Huey looks like. Because obviously I'm going the wrong way around here. But like I'm going to have to fill in those blanks in my own head. So that's sort of the motivation for him. Billy Butcher's motivation. What do you think of that? Because we find out more about it.
So Billy Butcher's motivation is more explored in season 2. But you're told about it in season 1.
You find out all about it.
I guess you find out about all the backstory of it in season 2. So his motivation is Homelander has like raped and he believes has raped and made his wife disappear. Yeah. He thinks she murdered. They don't know. He's never figured it out. But she's
disappeared.
He fears murdered.
Yeah.
And that's his motivation for going after Homelander, the most powerful being in the universe.
Yeah. We start small. So it's interesting that you have this sort of like build up for Billy trying to move towards taking on Homelander. And in the very last episode, he tries that and epically fails, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so you see him, they capture Translucent very early on. So what happens is essentially Billy manipulates Huey to go and try and plant a bug in Vought, basically using his... he's literally just using that poor guy's suffering to manipulate him to do some stuff because he's a shady guy.
He's definitely morally like needs an update. Yeah,
Butcher 2.0.
Yeah, needs to know.
So he manipulates, and then what happens is Translucent, who we talked about before, who's the essentially invisible character, follows him back to where he works, and they capture him. And that's where you bring in the rest of the boys. So you bring in, you get Frenchie coming in at this point.
And Mother's Milk.
Hilarious. Mother's Milk comes in a bit later, I think.
I don't remember, to be fair. But this is basically, they get the band back together. You're right, a couple episodes.
It's exactly
they're getting the band back together because they've gotten the soup that they can, and they all want to kill soups, and they need each other's, they each have expertise, right?
Yeah. Well, Mother's Milk, Frenchie's is essentially explosives.
Yeah,
you actually find out more about that in the second season.
This crazy chemist, like French dude who's got the funniest French accent, who's just like wild and is great character.
So they basically, we're going from one explosive moment to another here. My favorite bit, probably in the whole season, is when Huey finally plucks up the courage to murder Translucent. So the point is that Translucent is caught by the guys. And you explain it. It's too fucking funny. It's too good.
I don't really exactly remember how it all happens, but they're caught by the guys. They knock him out. They're trying to figure out a way to kill him.
They stick C4 up his ass.
Eventually, they stick C4 up his ass, and like all the guys have left for some reason. Huey's alone with him, and he gets out.
Homelander's in the area, and they're trying to distract Homelander.
So they're trying to like make sure they don't get caught because Homelander's looking for Translucent, who's missing.
Huey lets him go,
and then he says something at the end, doesn't he? That pisses him off?
I think he basically just calls him weak.
Yeah, and then he blows him up and just blood and guts everywhere.
Huey has this fucking American Psycho moment where he just... So they realize that only the outside of Translucent is impenetrable. The inside, on the other hand, very penetrable. So they get the C4. It's so... Like,
how does he not know that there's C4 up his ass? I forget about this.
I think he knows something's in there. I just don't think he knows what.
Got it. Okay.
Oh my god! So you follow those stories through, and then you've also got what you think at the very beginning is you think Homelander is going to be this paragon of justice, this fucking great bloke. And at the end of the first episode, he goes and he murders a senator.
Yeah.
So you've seen it more recently than me. The senator tries to blackmail Vought.
He basically figures out what and then this is a big spoiler.
Oh,
superhero, which we haven't even touched on.
we'll talk about
How do
that in a minute,
superheroes exist in this world? Well, like we're led to believe that they're born and
We're
they're
led to
God's
believe
gift.
they're born that way, yeah.
But through the season, you find out that there's something called Compound V, and we don't know what it is at first. But Homelander sure does, and so does the head of Vought, who he's very close with, a female. And basically, one of the senators kind of hints that he knows what it is, and Homelander takes him out, murders him. So he's not that nice.
And that's Madeline Stillwell, and that encapsulates how few fucks Homelander gives.
Yeah.
He's like this senator, you know, supposed to be the dude who like sets the laws and
he blows his plane up
and just fucking destroys the plane. And then there's an interesting bit after that which begins to show you how scared of Homelander the Seven are when the Deep reports back and he says it seems like there was something that might have like chopped the plane. And Homelander fucking gives him this look and you're like, oh, he gonna die. But there's a really interesting. So I mentioned before, like I think Starlight's like the other POV character in this. What's interesting is she's introduced to Seven. Like I say, she's naive, she's young, she's innocent, and then she essentially gets sexually assaulted by the Deep.
Day one.
So in the comics, that's actually a Homelander apparently who does that. Which is interesting. I way prefer it better that way because they can. And then what happens?
Homelander's just like bigger than that.
Yeah. He doesn't need to stoop that way.
Yeah.
And then he essentially gets extradited from the Seven, and he goes off to some backwater town, and he's like
Homelander does.
No. The Deep. Sorry, in the show.
He goes to like Toledo, Ohio, or something.
And essentially, the whole thrust of the first season is Billy trying to find a way to get revenge on Homelander. He essentially manipulates Starlight at some points, the relationship that's building with Huey. And what we find at the end of it is that Billy Butcher's wife actually isn't dead.
Yeah.
So Homelander didn't rape her. And
well, we don't know if he didn't rape her or he did rape her.
I think in the second season you find out that he didn't.
I watched it and it wasn't clear to me.
It implies that it was consensual and it implies that she was just too upset to go back to Billy.
I don't think that is, I don't know. We can take it offline.
Well, that's fine. What do you think it was?
It felt like to me like it wasn't like a full on rape, but it was like I'm taking her into a room and she was too scared to say no kind of thing, which is also rape.
Yeah,
and then it was kind of like she knew and she never reached out to Billy because she knew he would never stop chasing Homelander because of that.
Sure.
And he would die.
Well, then,
anyway.
I mean, maybe. I saw it a different way. I saw it as in like she. Like I say, it was consensual and she was just too upset to go back to Billy. And then the crux of this is that she actually had... Superheroes are supposed to be... aren't supposed to be able to breed, right?
Yeah.
They're supposed to be sterile. And she has Homelander's kid.
Yeah,
and at the end of it, we find out about... We're skipping big chunks of this.
Well, I mean, we can't summarize two seasons in an hour.
That reveal is mind-shattering.
Yeah.
I think so good, and he becomes a key part of the second season
for sure. And he was one of the parts. And I'm just jumping around now.
Yeah, no, let's just do that.
I love the like slow reveal of Homelander's megalomania.
Yes,
best part of the first season, and then you kind of start to realize, holy crap, this guy's fucking insane. And then season 2, you really get it.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the best parts of the show for me so far was like I was like full on like this guy at any given scene could just murder someone.
Yeah,
like you there's an anxiety over every scene that he's in, and then like
that's what the show does really well.
Yeah, and that also I think is a total like as an aside like call out to how women like must have felt in the workplace dominated by men for so long.
Absolutely.
And there's a scene where Starlight talks about that kind of how she's like really working with Homelander and you're like, wow, that is totally meant to be a call out to like basically misogynistic workplaces. And Harvey Weinstein, all that kind of stuff. Like
not wanting to sort of move away from that because that's obviously a very poignant point. But the thing I really like about it is in the first season, Homelander's psychotic tendencies, they're almost played for laughs. So like you're watching it and there's the bit when they go up to find a shooter and Homelander just basically like rips his heart out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh well, we have to act like he shot first.
Yeah.
And it's almost played for laughs.
Yeah.
And it gradually devolves and then you get to the plane scene and I couldn't wait for you to see that. There's a scene, it'll probably live with me forever.
It's almost like the anti 9/11 scene where you like where you like hear about in 9/11 that one crew that crash the plane to save everyone.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of that.
Yeah, well,
it's like
well, what happens is that there's this through running story in it where they want to get superheroes into the military. There's this big deal about it should be our soldiers, etc., etc. And what happens is a plane gets hijacked crossing the Atlantic, and the Supes aren't called in to deal with it because it's not an American territory, but Homelander and Queen Maeve go anyway. And what happens is, in the sort of like furore and everything going on, Homelander he uses heat vision and just cuts through the controls of the plane. And then he panics. He realizes that they can't save everyone. And then you see that flip of him. You actually see the psychopath come out. And he just turns to Maeve and he says,
"These people are expendable.
They have to die."
Yeah.
Like, he knows at that point that that's it. Like, he can't... It's not like Superman. So in Superman, there's this big, like, kerfuffle. What's the word we keep using? MacGuffin. There's this MacGuffin that he can... So he doesn't, like... like Superman Returns, where he catches the plane and he brings it down. He actually has a force field that goes around the thing, so it all stays together. So if it was just a plane coming down, it would just crumple in the middle, right? Or snap. Mm-hmm. Whereas he has this, like, force field that goes around and keeps intact. Mm-hmm. Where Homelander knows he doesn't have that. He's just like, I cannot keep this plane flying. It will just snap in half. He isn't quick enough to take people one by one to the ground. And he's just like, fuck you, you're all going to die.
No, it's like my image over you. Yeah, because he would have gotten heat for fucking everything up.
Yeah. And then you see him flip it around, which is even more fucking crazy.
Yeah, and then in the next scene, he totally, like, makes it 180s it and is like, we should have been able to get involved here because we could have saved everyone. And
plays it to his advantage. Like,
it's totally just like, so you are in it for yourself and you only do. But the part I was going to get to that I totally went off track on was he's this crazy, insane guy, totally psychopath. And then, like, in season 2, there's a couple scenes, and I wish they would have done this a bit more.
Okay.
Where, like, you get into his past as a kid.
Yeah.
And you almost feel sorry for him, like, in moments, particularly when he's talking to his own kid, and he's like, "Well, I didn't have any of it." Yeah. I was hoping they would have, like, delved into those moments more.
In the first.
They did, and they did it early in the second season. And I also wanted them to explore. Actually, like, you maybe get a hint of, like, this is actually what Homelander wants, is, like, someone to feel, like, on par with and have a relationship and, like, a support system and familial system where he can kind of identify with them. Yeah, and it's almost tragic because if he had it, he might not have turned into this thing.
Yeah, interesting.
But we didn't get a ton of that. I would have liked a little bit more.
That's a really interesting point. They certainly build on that in the second season. We might as well touch on the second season. Like,
sorry, I jumped to the second.
What I'd love to do is just quickly wrap up, kind of going through frenetically the bits we're talking about, and then just talk about some random bits, because there's some really fucking funny bits in this as well. So the second season, like I say, Stormfront gets introduced. It turns out she's essentially a Nazi, right? She's lived for a long time.
Yeah, they were all over the place with that. But
it's a bit all over the place, that story, but she and Homelander spark a relationship, two superpowered humans. They go on a bit of a rampage, doing whatever the fuck they want. And then it essentially ends with Homelander's son basically losing control of his heat vision and frying her.
Yeah.
But that also then kills Butcher's wife.
Who is his mom.
Yeah,
so he kills his mom.
He accidentally kills his own mom, and then it falls to the kid. He has this, it's a literal choice. It's like, do you want to go with Homelander and become like a psychopath, or do you want to go with Butcher and become also a psychopath? But, just it's
more like his mom obviously trusted this guy, so it's kind of symbolically. Do you want to go with your mom?
That's a really touching scene. I really like that, how he goes over to Butcher. I really think he's gonna. They're playing it up as if the kid's gonna be the only one who's gonna be able to beat Homelander.
Yeah, we'll see. I think they're going to put him away for a while and probably recast him.
He's got to be put in the back for a bit. Yeah, look, there's so much to unpack in these 2 seasons. I think we could have probably done an episode on each.
I was going to say we probably should have. But
still, let's go into a few. What are your favorite bits from this? Because there's so many meaty bits.
I touched on it a bit, but the Homelander has this weird fucking relationship with the boss from Vought in season 1.
Oh yeah,
and it's like this sexual mom thing as well. It's all over the place. But there's scenes where he's literally drinking her breast milk, sucking on her teeth like a baby,
and that follows soon to the second season.
Yeah.
Well, explain what happens with them then.
Yeah, so
because their relationship's fucked.
So it's this weird thing where like she's like kind of the only one that can control him.
Yes.
But he also doesn't like being controlled.
Yes.
He's like conflicted with himself on this. So there's like always these moments of like who's actually in control here for the whole season of the whole entirety of the first season.
Yeah,
and there is a scene where he's sucking on her tit, and it's like totally a metaphor for American big business sucking on the teat of politicians. But
and vice versa.
in the end, basically, Butcher Butcher finds out about this relationship. And tries to basically use this woman. What is her name? Madeline Stillwell. Tries to use Homelander's connection to her against him to get to the bottom of
it's the
what happened with his wife.
One tied to humanity.
Yeah, and basically,
turns out he doesn't have one.
and it was going to be the test. And I think we all, after seeing a season of Homelander, knew it was going to happen.
I was absolutely flabbergasted by it.
I at that point was like, yeah, he's gonna fucking.
I was flabbergasted
because it was as soon as I heard because basically Homelander ends up killing her and says, "So now what's your plan? Gonna like what do you do? I don't give a fuck about her."
She lies to Homelander about the child because he finds out that the child is his, and is alive and also may have powers. And he realizes she's lied to him.
Yeah,
and
he basically does the whole Tyrion, I'm going to tell two different stories kind of thing. He hears two different stories from two different people with a minor detail change, so he knows they're lying. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's going to murder her.
Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah, she's done. But it's a really powerful scene because you're like, he
visions her eyes.
He visions her eyes. Her whole face collapses. It's fucking gnarly. But then he just looks to Butcher and he's like, so. What are you going to do now, bro? Yeah. And,
but that's the most interesting part because then Butcher obviously explodes the house. That was his plan
he pulls the trick.
His plan was to kill Stillwell and, rid sort of Homelander of his one tie to like a normal sort of life.
Yeah.
What happens is he blows himself up, but Homelander is so fast, he saves him. And while he's unconscious, flies him out to the house where the mum and the kid who he didn't know about are. And it's like, it's great.
So that's the ending of the first season. We're introduced to Homelander's son.
And it's a bit different in the comics as well. In the comics, the wife apparently is actually, the wife is dead. So it changes that up a little bit. So
I kind of knew she was going to die because she didn't have much of a purpose to serve after this season. But she's super, super hot.
Tough one. I wasn't sure. Like, I just feel like the way they've manipulated us to think one thing and completely flip it on its head. I thought they could have done more stuff with her, but I think I definitely think my favorite most standout scene is the one where they're on the airplane, as I talked about before, and Homelander is losing his shit at these people, and Queen Maeve's trying to save two of the kids, and he's like, if we save them, everyone will know that we're frauds. Like, and it's just like you just get this insight into his mind, and you go, yeah, he does not
think like a normal person.
He does not think like a normal. And there's also a scene as well later on, I don't know if you're going to talk about this, when Homelander, so basically what happens in the second season is Homelander, he murders a few people kind of by accident with his powers, and it's plastered all over social media, and there are rallies against him and against Supes in general, and he flies down to one of these rallies to try. He thinks that his charm and charisma is going to win them all back over.
He realizes he
that he can't, and in his moment of desperation, he just laser zaps everyone in front of him, cuts everyone in half, and it's like a video game. It's going backwards and forwards, and then it snaps back, and it's all in his head, and you go,
this is what happens if this guy breaks.
If he snaps,
like the world ends.
Goes.
Yeah,
it's fucking
it's
cool.
really, really, it's perfectly timed for how like you're in this season, and you're just like, this guy could kill anyone at any given moment, and you see that, you're like, you totally believe that it could happen, which is like the scary part of his character. I think that's the scene before where he's like, so they're starving, but one of them has a fucking cell phone because like he's in like, I don't know, some third world country, and he gets viewed like killing some terrorist, and then accidentally kills a guy, and he gets caught on a cell phone.
That's
video.
some serious one. Look, we could talk about this all night. I think we probably should just wrap up a little bit, but. One character I wanted to call out two characters I want to call out super quick before we move on was firstly Black Noir. Fucking incredible in this. Just love how menacing he is. And there's a great
doesn't say anything.
There's a great scene when he's sat next to a dude on a piano, so and he's just waiting for him to move
down right now.
He doesn't speak, right? Yeah. Like he's just mute, and he just like But he's got a mask on. He just gives him this look. Oh.
Well, it's like a cocktail party, and it's like all this formal thing. There's a hired piano guy, and he just steps up to the piano guy's like, "This is my gig. Get the fuck out."
That's just
very funny. What are like other like just really great scenes?
Well, I was going to mention as well the Deep, because he deserves the biggest honorable mention.
The Deep, like when they're trying to interview him for his wife scene. Great. He's just like the humor of the show. He doesn't really connect to anything core to the plot, really, for the most part. But there's just time after time of him failing to save animals, and they end up dying, and all he really wants to do is save animals. Yeah. It's just fucking hilarious.
There's a fantastic scene in the second season when he thinks he can stop the boys with a whale, and he basically beaches this whale so that they can't get back onto shore. That the boys are running from the superheroes. And he sort of stood there as if he's about to be triumphant,
like really like ripped.
He's got the superhero pose. He's ready, and Butcher just puts his head down and puts his foot on the gas in this boat and just drives
straight into the whale,
straight into the side of the whale, and it fucking explodes. And he's just like, it is hilarious.
How about after like Huey's all shell shocked, so he doesn't get out, and he's like Butcher tries to get him out, he doesn't come. So one of the other guys is like, "Well, what are you gonna leave him?" He's like, "You go fucking get Pinocchio," because he's inside a whale. Dude, there's so many. I gotta go through some one-liners. I'm sorry, but there's so many good ones.
I love this.
I wrote Black Noir playing the piano.
That's a great one.
I'll tell you what you are. You're a moron. Translucent doesn't even mean invisible. It means semi-transparent.
That's brilliant.
Dude, he's got so many, Billy Butcher. What else?
Wait, was that Butcher? So he said it in his dumb accent.
Yeah, I can't even do it.
Great.
You'd be better at it. Well, a stranger is just a friend you ain't met yet.
Yeah, please keep doing the accent. That's great.
How about the scene in, I think it's season 2, when they Stormlander, like they find
Stormlander.
Stormlander. That's such a great relationship name.
There you go. Yeah.
Stormfront. They find evidence through A-Train that she's a Nazi because he got kicked out of the 7 basically for being black because she doesn't like. Anyway, he basically comes back, Huey, with all this information. He's like, "Boy, did we find something!" And Butcher's like, "What? You find fuck all?" And he's just like, "We definitely found fuck all. I'm not sure I'm using that correctly, but so good."
Frenchie's hilarious. Well, he's got some great ones.
He's got some great ones. Like I'm doing those all night before.
Well, let's super quickly then. Let's wrap this. What do you think is in the future for the boys? What do you think is the next season? Because there's a season 3 has been confirmed. We know that they've all kind of been pardoned, and that so Frenchie, Mother's Milk, and Billy Butcher are going off and are now, like the comics, being funded by the CIA to keep the superheroes in check. We know Huey has gone off and he is now working with the politician, who we haven't touched on at all. But that's the big twist at the end of the second season.
Yeah, the politician's a soup. Anyway.
Yes. Who is supposed to be keeping the eye on the soups. And then we have Homelander, who's essentially locked out of his own little group, the 7. He's the outcast now, and he's just having a little nervous breakdown. So what do you think? Where do you think he's going to go?
Look, I kind of cheated and I read some stuff ahead, so I know that they're going to do some stuff with like.
I don't know anything about the third season.
Do you want me to? It's not really a spoiler. It's just like the showrunners already said.
Okay, go hit me.
They're going to bring up more. There's a couple new soups they're going to bring up from the past.
I know.
That are almost like the Homelander before Homelander.
I've forgotten his name. Jensen Ackles is playing in. Yeah. It's Soldier Boy, maybe?
Soldier Boy or something like that.
Like Soldier Boy up in it.
Yeah, it was a very interesting name. So they'll explore that. They'll explore Huey trying to do good, but
so do you think they'll bring Soldier Boy
manipulated?
Sorry, do you think Soldier Boy will be brought into the 7 and maybe be a foil for Homelander somehow?
Yeah, I think it's going to do that to also explore just like more of the past of Vought too and how they got there today.
Okay, really interesting. Yeah. They have is Giancarlo Esposito as the new big bad in this. He's like, so essentially Vought is the disgusting company that's running all the soups and turning babies into superheroes. And it's really interesting that whenever you need a good bad guy, they always turn to Esposito. You know, like he's incredible. He's in everything now. He's in The Mandalorian. Yeah. He's in the new Far Cry game. He is the bad guy you turn to.
Yeah. Fuck, I love how much they explore like just extremes in this show too, like the depravity.
Yeah.
Like A-Train and his weird fetishes in season 1.
We didn't get into any of this.
Fucking
It's
like the fucking
crazy.
porn in season 2 they're watching.
Unbelievable.
The Homelander wanking off to the world like I can do anything I want. Like they just explore all sorts of extremely depraved things.
All right, do you think, let's hypothetically say 5 seasons they decide to finish this. Does Billy Butcher get his revenge?
Yeah.
Does Billy Butcher get his revenge,
Yeah.
or is it the son that kills Homelander?
Well, either way he gets his revenge if that
Or
happens.
they do it together?
Yeah. I don't know how it happens, but Homelander dies.
You'd think that should be.
I mean, or they're a show. This is totally a show that could
be.
that could be like,
be
no,
Game of
this is
Thrones."
not the ending you want.
I wouldn't be surprised if
They're kind of set that tone from the beginning.
some of the boys die.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Someone has to. I actually think it's going to be Mother's Milk, personally.
Well, I just
He's got the
mean-
most to lose.
I just mean that like it could be a show that doesn't have a happy ending.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm
yeah.
just thinking, if one, I reckon in the next season probably one of the boys will die.
Mother's
I
Milk
think-
has the least to offer as well. I think.
Oh, he has definitely got the most to lose. He's got a family.
Yeah.
He's got a daughter. Like he's the one they've built up as that Hawkeye character that
Yeah,
we keep banging on
true.
about. But this, so one
Can-
thing we
can-
talked about last week was was it last week or the week before, the tropes of having the non superpowered character around all superheroes. The way they do it, it's real like grimy and dirty. They're always on the run. They're hiding in these
Yeah.
disgusting places, and it's like it's really like they find the one thing that Homelander can't see through. I've forgotten it's a type of metal, and they plaster it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's so well done.
It's believable in that way,
it
for sure.
It flips it from the whole just real humans going against superheroes.
I have 2 complaints with this show.
Go.
Huey is far too whiny
True, but it's
and
supposed
takes
to be.
far, but too much, and takes far too long to get with the program.
He says the
It's
words,
like, dude, you can't be fucking dicking around worrying about the pilots. Like Homelander is after you, bro.
Yeah,
Like
fair.
too many times he's like, we need to do this. Like, dude, shut up.
It's like I can't do this. He says I can't do this.
Like
so many times.
It's like season 2, we're deep in it. It's like, nah, dude, you can, you have,
Time.
get with the program.
Yeah.
And then the Starlight and Huey, will they, won't they thing is just like, for a show that's so original, when they have to lean on a trope that's like really tropey and cliche like that, it really is. You can see that it's tropey.
I think that's just everything casual viewer.
I guess my point is for like, because it's so original, it shines out to me as being very predictable and boring. Anyway, that part of the
No, fair enough. I think I've fanboyed over it so much that I've sort of looked past all the little things that originally
I'm
annoyed
glad
me.
it exists as a show, despite that. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Well, that's awesome. What's your rating out of Aquaman? How many Aquaman do you give this? 100 Aquaman?
All the Aquaman, or none of them, and that might be a better
0 Aquaman.
Yeah, that might be a
it's probably
better.
better to be fair. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for sticking with it. That was our rambling, confused, deep dive into the boys. We both clearly love this show. Maybe we'll come back to this. What I think we should do is when they bring out season 3, maybe we should do a best moments.
Yeah, we should be more succinct. This was kind of a splurge.
I enjoyed it though. It was very
Yeah.
fun. It was very fun getting to finally talk to you about it because I've waited so long for this moment. Do you have any correspondence this week?
I do. I thought we might have to cut it because we're running long. And to be fair, reading
Yes.
through it, it's not. It's not super
Not too
insightful
deep.
like,
No, that's all right.
like
The
our
correspondence
previous
side, yeah.
correspondence. But basically had a couple mates write in. I asked how you like in WandaVision, and the feedback I've gotten from some of the mates who are big fans of the MCU
Yeah.
of the last episode. Boring ass show at this point now.
You mean just that episode?
It's just a bit stretched out.
that episode?
I
Or
think they're kind of
in general.
they're leaning towards in general.
Wow.
Ari wrote the show.
There you go.
But agreed the episode was better, but this one has gotten them back on the train of, hey, I need more.
What's friend of the show's name?
Ari
Friend of the
Rassler.
show, Ari. Can you write back in after the next episode and let us know if you still think it's boring?
And I think he still enjoys it. His point was, and I'll read it, it could have probably been a decent normal length movie at this point, and agreed it's picking up, but like fucking barely.
Yeah,
Was his
I wonder if
quote.
he's a couple of episodes behind because I think that's how you felt after 5 episodes.
I honestly, a lot of the things that he's talking about, and I'm just giving an opposite view here, right, from one of the viewers. Just like 2 to 4 minutes of actual interest per episode for the last 3, he says, that have like driven the Marvel story forward. So
Yeah.
he's like me in that he's a little fed up with how much of the sitcom stuff is bleeding through.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, like, fair play to him. Like, I'd love to know his thoughts when. Friend of
hard to judge
Ari,
things until
friend of the
it's-
show, Ari, if you can write back in when the show's finished, or maybe after the next episode.
It's hard
I'd
to
love know
judge things until they're
how
done.
you feel. No, absolutely, I agree.
And we're watching
also,
them, right? So
I had a friend of the show, Jacob, was messaged actually this week, and he said he was just a bit confused by the Agatha Harkness reveal. Like, if you don't read the comics, that means literally nothing to anyone.
well, that's and the way they did it. I agree,
It's
Joseph.
complete. It's
just
complete
kinda like,
nonsense. I agree with you.
Yeah.
He also agreed with us. He said he thinks that Wanda looks like she's losing it, and I'm with you on that, Jacob. I think she's going to be the big bad for at least one film, if not the next phase of the MCU.
That would be a really, really good turn.
I'd love to see that.
Friend of the show, Jared says, I've enjoyed it, but definitely a slow burn. Feels easier to watch now that it's not competing with anything else right now.
Interesting.
So that's another question.
That's a
If
very
there
good
was
point.
something else on, would you be as stoked for WandaVision, or is there a bit of a drought?
That's a very good point. But
Yeah.
well, we do have a ton of. We've talked about this before. There is a ton of content from Netflix which has been released. But I completely agree in terms of like really good TV shows.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
There isn't a huge amount right now. So that could certainly be. It was for a little while the most popular TV show in the world in the middle there. I tweeted out about it this week.
Yeah.
And it's been taken over again by The Mandalorian. So
Nah, fair enough.
it's basically switching between the two. Thank you guys for all your correspondence. We really appreciate it. Where do they find us?
pod_assemble on
Twitter.
Twitter.
Yeah.
And the podcast assemble at gmail.com. One take, son. All right, guys. I appreciate it. I have to go eat some dinner, though.
Thank
so
you guys.
until
Really
next time.
appreciate it. Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye.